You know, it's 15 years today since the Howard government faced voters for the final time. Yeah, on the 24th of November 2007, the Howard government was thrown from office. And haven't we been going along just swimmingly ever since? Now, remember how the Howard government in its early years was confronted with a wave of people smuggling, with thousands of asylum seekers arriving on our shores. It was a terrible problem. And who could forget John Howard's famous declaration in the 2001 election campaign?
We have a proud record of welcoming people from 140 different nations. But we will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
In the end, we saw detention camps and offshore processing as Howard implemented the Pacific solution and the people smugglers were put out of business. But tragically, after 2007, even though Kevin Rudd had promised to turn back the boats too, he instead dismantled the Pacific solution, scrapped temporary protection visas, didn't turn any boats back, and promised a new border protection regime that he said would be tough but humane. Tough but humane, he said. Despite plenty of warnings, off went Rudd and Labor, trumpeting a tough but humane approach and delivering instead a humanitarian disaster.
It's a gamble many are increasingly willing to take. So far this year, 6,765 asylum seekers have reached Australia by boat, taking just 7 months to surpass the record of 6,555 set in 2010.
The outstretched hand of a woman grasping for life as frantic rescuers try to drag survivors from the boiling sea.
We need to get life jackets down to these people.
This was the refugee boat just seconds before it was swamped by huge waves.
It was terrifying to watch, and there was nothing we can do.
Tossed about like a matchstick in the massive swell, it stood no chance. Eventually thrown onto rocks. The boat broke up. Men, women and children were thrown into the swirling sea.
Just terrible stuff, hey? Eventually, after 50,000 arrivals and at least 1,200 deaths, Labor was swept from power and the coalition under Tony Abbott launched Operation Sovereign Borders, which reinstated offshore processing, boat turnbacks and temporary protection visas. It put the people smugglers out of business once again. This year, Labor claimed to have learned the lessons, promising to keep Operation Sovereign Borders, but not all of it, a position that confused Anthony Albanese during the election campaign.
Do you remain committed to Operation Sovereign Borders, and if so, do you support the retention of temporary protection visas?
Yes. Earlier on, I heard half the question and didn't hear all of it. Labor's policy is to support Operation Sovereign Borders. We support offshore processing. We support resettlement in third countries. We don't support temporary protection visas.
Yeah, critically, Labor promised to get rid of temporary protection visas, the visas that stop illegal arrivals from getting permanent residency. And Labor justifies its border protection changes with a familiar line. Here's the Immigration Minister.
I'm very proud to be a member of a government that recognises that we can be resolute in maintaining strong and secure borders whilst not abandoning our humanity.
Now, this is enough of a worry. Without TPVs, there is a bigger incentive for people smugglers and asylum seekers to find a way past our patrols and onto our shores. But what's been revealed in recent days in parliamentary questioning is that the Albanese Labor government is looking to provide some form of permanent residency for the more than 30,000 people who arrived illegally before Abbott stopped the boats and are currently still here on temporary protection visas. That's more than 30,000 people who gamed our system being rewarded with their ultimate goal. Good for them, you might say. We can all understand their desire, but it could be terrible for our border security. And what's more, we now find the government is also looking at offering family reunion rights.
We've also flagged important changes that have been made to family reunion. Again, an issue affecting people who've been here for a long time, which goes directly to those two principles. Securing our borders, including by securing safer passage to people who need our protection.
Wow, so that's 30,000 people who arrived by boat, awarded their ultimate goal, and perhaps another 30,000 or more getting permanent residency as a consequence. This is what the people smugglers promised. And now, despite arriving through illegal people smuggling operations, that's what these people will get. That's terrific for those families. And as I said, who could question their desire? But this is not a good development for the integrity of our border security regime or orderly immigration policies. And the worst outcome is that this is likely to be sugar on the table. This helps the people smugglers market their product. Permanent residency in Australia is the holy grail. This is the product people smugglers sell. If Australia provides that outcome to 30,000 more boat arrivals, no matter how long they've been waiting, and then adds that many again or more as they fly in their families from source countries, well, only the most naïve among us would believe this won't generate more interest from people smugglers and their potential clients. Having unleashed this trauma and tragedy once before, playing ugly and partisan politics with it all the way along, Labor had better not unpick this crucial piece of national security all over again.